So these nuggets are made from chicken, but they're made to emulate the taste of like non-chicken nuggets. So these nuggets are made from chicken, but they're made to emulate the taste of non-chicken nuggets. Dope. Let's boost that sound quality. Emulate the taste of non-chicken nuggets. Emulate the taste of non-chicken nuggets. Dope. Non-chicken nuggets. Non-chicken nuggets. But they're made to emulate the taste of vegan nuggets. Sounds tasty.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Christiana.
How's it going? Happy Thursday.
Yeah. You too. Great shirt.
Thank you. Cowboy cats for everyone in the audience. You know, just felt spunky today for our interview podcast live event. You've all met my shirt, but now I'll introduce myself. I'm Christiana. I'm the community manager here at Descript, and I'm here with Kevin, our wonderful product specialist and our regular guide for all of our live learning events. Hello, Kevin.
Hello.
And hello to everybody out in the chat. People from Phoenix, Gettysburg, Minneapolis, all over Brooklyn, New York. I love it. Welcome, wherever you're tuning in from. We're going to talk about interview podcasting and how to create interview podcasts in Descript. While folks are joining in, our warm-up question for today, Kevin, do you have any interview tips for us? How to crack a good interview? And folks in the audience, I want to hear your answers as well.
Oh gosh. I feel like, yes, anyone who's done more than like 2 interviews starts to develop their list of tips that they share with people or they remind themselves of. Some interview tips that I give. Well, it depends. There's been some chatter in the chat so far, but it depends if you're interviewing in person or virtually. The first one, I think, is just zipping the lip and not talking or saying or yeah, or like responding while someone's answering, giving those nice visual cues, and leaving some space before and after answers to give yourself some more options when you're editing, especially in person. If you're just using one mic or 2 mics, you don't want your mic or their mic picking up you when you're interviewing them and they're answering something. You can always add that in after if you want to. In person also, I always say just always be recording. Like if you're showing up to a location and you have a recorder with you and you're going to interview somebody, like record before you get out of your car or off the train or whatever it might be, and don't stop recording until you leave. Just always be recording. And if you're doing an interview virtually, don't start recording until everybody's there and you're ready to go, to avoid any, like audio lineup issues and things being out of sync later on. It's just nice to have a clean stop and a clean start and a clean stop. Yeah. Those are my tips.
Those are awesome. Cool. Amazing. And people in the chat are sharing some awesome ones as well. So definitely check that out. Cool. Ashley from our team says, I always have to remember to chat casually for a while before starting, make them comfortable, for sure.
Such a good one.
Give people time to warm up like we're doing right now with this warm up.
Yeah.
Right before we make Kevin teach us for an hour.
having a really great opening question is also awesome. Something to clear the air, loosen everybody up. Like what the classic one is what you had for breakfast that morning. It allows you to create some just relaxed environment and everything, but also get levels for the person you're interviewing.
Right. Test out the audio for sure. Yeah. The one thing I'll add, this is more just like a personal thing, but just set yourself up to feel like your most confident self. So, like,
Mm,
wear a shirt that you love, even if there's no video, or, like, place your pump up music, like, do whatever you need to do to feel like very much empowered and in control, because it can be nerve wracking, especially if you're interviewing a guest that you really admire. Um, so yeah, just set yourself up for success. Cool.
yeah.
Okay. Well, keep them coming in the chat. If you're just joining us, welcome. And I'm going to pass it over to Kevin in just a second. But first, I'm going to go over some housekeeping. Cool. Okay, so this is what we're looking at for today. We did our welcome, but this is the rest of the stuff you can expect coming up here. So we're going to do importing, transcribing, and recording, correcting your transcript, editing using the script. We're going to show you how to remove your filler words and word gaps. We'll show you how to edit with the timeline, studio sound, intros, outros, and music, and how to put those in, your projects, collaboration, and then publishing and exporting. And then some reminders. So if you're watching in Crowdcast, use the Ask a Question section for questions. Our wonderful friend Marcelo is in there right now, and he will answer anything that comes up. And then, of course, the chat, which I will be monitoring, is awesome for your reactions and chatting and all of that good stuff. Sometimes Crowdcast will freeze. Just hit refresh on that page, and that should do the trick. But if not, we're also streaming to YouTube right now, so you can jump over there and watch if you need. And then the session is recorded and we'll send it out in the follow-up email. So if you have to jump early, no worries. We've got your back. And if you need more help, we have an awesome help center, help.descript.com. And then we also have a community support option on Discord. Definitely join us there. And you can get in touch with all of the other users and our team members. And then last but not least, if you're new here, if you're new to Descript, we want to hook you up with Descript Pro for free for a month, and you can use that code at checkout. I'll send it in the chat, and then we'll also share that in the follow-up email. So you'll be all good to go. All right. I think that's my housekeeping for now. I also see some people saying that my audio is weird, so I'll try to fix that.
We can still hear you and see you. It's all good.
Is it just like out of sync? Like I'm
Like a half a second.
Oh, that's so tough. Sorry,
It
guys.
looks like it's an old movie and you've been overdubbed a little bit.
Oh, okay, got it. It's just a new feature that we're trying out, everybody.
Right.
Don't worry. It's buggy. It's buggy. But okay, I'll see if I can fix that. But if not, thank you for bearing with me.
It's all
And
good.
Kevin's gonna do most of the talking now anyway. So over to you, Kevin.
Oh, great. All right, let's jump in. We're going to spend today mostly talking about standard one-on-one interviews. We are putting together an event soon that will tackle multicam video interviews, especially. So like kind of that in-studio multicam vibe, or if you have a podcast, even if it's remote, that has more than two people and you're switching between multiple cameras, that is going to take a little bit more time to walk through. But today we're going to talk about our standard interview podcast, intro, conversation, outro. But please in the chat, let us know what parts of other types of podcasts you'd like to learn about so we can design those sessions for you all. All right, we're going to jump in. I'm going to share my screen here. This is Descript. So what we're going to do, we're going to walk through how you get media, audio or video into Descript. And there's a few different ways and how we can kind of stay organized while we're doing that. The first, if you haven't checked out, what Descript is and where all these things live and what this is our drive view here, check out our help center, help.descript.com, to just get yourself started and learn your way around. It'd be really, really helpful. But the good thing to remember when you're getting started is create one project in Descript when you're ready to create a single episode. So we're going to go ahead. whether you're in your recent projects view or in your private workspace, which is a workspace private to you, or in a Drive workspace if you're working with other people or you just want to store your stuff there, we're just going to click New Project, the blue button in the top right-hand corner. And that is going to create a blank, empty project and composition, which is our version of a doc. When you're ready to go, you'll see the cursor is at Untitled. You'll label this composition, this project. The name of your first composition is actually going to update the name of the project also. And now we have this single doc or single composition within our project. You can click this little drop down. If you ever create more docs or more compositions, those will show up there. You can move this around also if you want it to live somewhere else and stay open. It's really helpful. You can also create folders here to stay organized. All right, the ways of getting media into Descript, there's a few. If you're doing an interview podcast virtually, I cannot recommend enough, we can't recommend enough using either Squadcast or Riverside. Our friends, colleagues, collaborators, we have an integration with them. It's called Edit in Descript, where you finish a recording in Riverside or Squadcast, an interview, and it takes the files that you've recorded from their cloud. You never have to download them. It'll just drop them over from their cloud to our cloud, and you can create a project and start working right away. An awesome feature, will save your hard drive space, all those things, and it's just really quick and easy. Through those two tools, you can record both audio and video, so you can have that option if you're making a video podcast or making audio, whatever it seems that you want to make. But those will be ported over directly, and you never have to download files, which is really, really nice. We're not going to show that workflow. Check out our Help Center if you want to see it. Very quick and easy. But we're going to show two pretty common flows right now. One is just importing and transcribing, and the other one is recording directly into Descript, which works really well if you're recording perhaps using a different tool, like you're meeting someone over like FaceTime or Google Meet or something like that, or even Zoom, if you're recording straight in. But if you're taking in files that you've recorded elsewhere, maybe in the studio, or you have a recorder, or you recorded at home, maybe you recorded over Zoom even, and you've used multiple tracks there, which can't recommend enough. You're going to drag and drop your files directly into this empty composition. So you can click this here to add files and to transcribe, or you can just go on your computer and drag and drop them in, whichever works for you. So pausing here, big thing for interview podcasts is if you can, and I think at this point there's not really a reason not to, because most tools offer this, is always record separate tracks for yourself and the person or people you're interviewing. The reason that is my dog here starts barking or, scratching his collar, and I'm doing an interview and someone's speaking. I want to be able to cut that out of my track without affecting their track. So always record separate audio. You can do that in Zoom. If you're using FaceTime or Google Meet or something, you can record directly into Descript, which we'll show in a second. So you can record your computer audio and record your microphone. But I'm going to pull in a couple tracks that we recorded on two ends of a conversation. And you'll see how easy it is to be able to cut out stuff of an individual track once we get in there. All right, so you can't see it here with my screen share, but I'm just going onto my computer, onto my desktop. I have a folder of some audio files, and I'm going to drag and drop them in. The big thing with multiple tracks from a single recording is you want to drag and drop them in together at the same time. So I'm selecting both the tracks from a conversation between Andrew and Jimbo, and I'm taking both of those tracks at the same time and dragging and dropping them in, just like this. I take those in together, starts the importing and transcription process, and I can kind of go through. So I'll add some speaker labels here for Andrew. I'll add a speaker label here for Jimbo. What's going to happen is these two files are going to be combined into a multi-track sequence, which is a mouthful for just an original pairing of 2 tracks. It's going to live kind of in the background in Descript, and we only need to go in there when we're actually ready to adjust one of the tracks, Andrew or Jimbo, and not the other. We'll jump into that in a second. So here we have an audio only composition, interview between Andrew and Jimbo. You can see the speaker labels populated really nicely. We have the transcript of everything they said as we're going. Our filler words are all identified in this blue dotted underline, which we'll pull out in a little bit. It looks great, nice and organized and clean. So the timeline here is also linked with our transcript, what we're hearing. So as we play back.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's a little awkward at first because we know each other so well.
Cool. So you see that our transcript follows along with the timeline. And these are the 2 surfaces that we're going to use to edit. Make most of our edits in the script, and we can just remove text, and it's going to remove it from the audio, what we're hearing.
Each other so well. Yeah, let's just, start with I'm Andrew Bird.
Oof. Okay. So we don't need any of that. So what I might do is just take all of this stuff in the beginning, all this like setup audio, and I can just delete it from the script. And now my conversation starts here.
I'm Andrew Bird. This is my friend Jimbo Mathis.
Just like that. The same process we can go through the scripts.
We met, I suppose.
Yeah. And where are you now, Andrew?
And we can make edits to the text by just deleting it, and it will take it out of the conversation.
What's how we met?
And where are you now?
Each other for 25 years. And
you can continue to make any edits that you want just by deleting text.
We've known each other for 25 years.
And where are you now, Andrew?
Just like that. Cool. So in addition to deleting from the script, you might be wondering like, ooh, there was some stuff in that intro when they were getting set up that I actually want to use. I might want to bring back. That's where our ignore feature comes in, which is striking out the text.
We got a little rain, so it's kind of more lush than usual.
You can highlight a word, phrase, sentence, and use this ignore feature here. This will pop up automatically. Anytime you select a word or select a phrase, series of words, this toolbar will pop up. You can click ignore or use the shortcut there. And it's going to strike it out in the script, but we'll be able to see what we've removed.
We got a little rain, so it's kind of more lush than usual.
You can see, actually, that's a little weird edit. I might want to bring that back. And you can just highlight it again and unignore it. You can go through and make your edits using ignore and be able to see what you've removed really easily.
So it's kind of more lush.
I wish I was there.
Just like that.
Awesome.
Cool. So you can see here, well, let me take a pause here. I want to make sure. Cool. Okay. So this is the magic kind of Descript, is just bringing in audio or video, editing the text, and it's going to edit the underlying media for you. So no more like having multiple tracks and all laid out, but we do have that. We do have the ability to affect, like I said earlier, just Andrew's track or just Jimbo's track. And this is why getting into multi-track recording is so important, because here you can see it's just one script and one timeline. You're like, actually, these are all together. Nope. Under the hood, behind the scenes, we have the sequence view, if you remember. And you can get to the sequence by right-clicking in the timeline, choosing Edit Sequence, or just double-clicking in the timeline. That's going to open up this sequence view, and this is where we might make some changes, make some edits to a single track and not the other. Any edits that you make in the sequence will be reflected back in the composition. Any edits that you make in the composition, however, will not be reflected in the sequence. The sequence is like the original pairing of the two files. So here you make big changes to the conversation. In the sequence is where you make changes to crosstalk or background noise, like a dog barking you want to remove, something like that. So let me show you what that looks like.
I'm in Ojai, California.
You're in Ojai. How's the
And
weather?
you're in. It's gorgeous.
Cool. So some crosstalk here that we might want to remove. I'm going to go and click our tool for the sequence view, and I'm going to select maybe the range tool where you can select a series of audio and just remove it. So I might just want to remove this crosstalk right here. I'm going to select it and just press delete. And now we have this.
I'm in Ojai, California.
You're in Ojai. How's the weather?
It's gorgeous.
Nice, I bet.
Gorgeous. We got a little rain.
Cool. So now we have the audio there. We can tighten up back in the composition if we need to. Here it is there again.
I'm in Ojai, California.
You're in Ojai. How's the weather?
So you can hear that crosstalk was removed. We still have that blank space. We're going to get into timeline editing in a little bit, but those are the two ways that you might want to edit using the script. And if you have any crosstalk you might need to cut out or anything like that, double clicking in the timeline will bring you to that sequence view, just like that.
Amazing. Kevin, do you have any recommendations on like the best way to start with your editing workflow? Like, should you just tackle your transcript first and then worry about crosstalk and getting into the sequence later? Or what do you think makes the most sense for an interview podcast?
Yeah, I bring up crosstalk in the sequence view early because it's such a common question.
Yeah.
Because you can kind of get away with using just the script and just the sequence view for the most part, most times, especially with some updates that we have coming to the script where you can, like adjust the word gaps and timing from the script, that kind of thing. But most of the time, start in the script. Spend 90% of your time just editing the text in the script to edit what you're hearing in your interview. And then if you need more precision editing, we'll go down the timeline in a little bit. Or if you need to remove crosstalk, background sounds, that kind of stuff going into the sequence. So definitely start in the script and kind of get like a rough edit going. Basically, all the audio that you want to hear shows up in the script and you can fine tune it at another pass using the timeline.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah. And as you get better and better, you might use the script, timeline, and sequence all at the same time as you're going through. But the first step is try just using the script and going through that way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Sweet. All right. I'm going to go back 2 steps right now. We're going to start with a recording. So we've talked about dragging and dropping some files in, doing a little bit of editing, but let's just do the same exact thing, but starting from a recording. So I'm going to go back out to my projects. I'm going to click the Descript D up here. It'll bring me back to my drive view. There's episode 1. I'll create a new project here. If I was doing a new interview, a new recording session, and I'll name this one episode 2 recording maybe. And I'll use this prompt right here to start recording. So here I can record audio only, camera and audio, or also camera, screen, and audio. So depending on what kind of media you're making, tons of different options. But for this purpose, let's just do audio real quick. And we have the ability to record separate channels in our recorder. Some changes happening to our recorder right now, so stay tuned on that. But know that if you click this little settings button, you can record separate channels. You can record a single channel. In this case, I'm just going to record my microphone, and then I'll also maybe record my computer sound. And of course, I need to install a driver real quick.
Kevin, I suddenly stopped being able to hear you. I don't know if that's just me, though. I just want to make sure. I don't know if it was like a setting or something.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you. Yeah.
Let me go back to my loop back. Can you still hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
More
Yep.
than
There you go.
solid forever.
I think it.
Love it. Okay, cool.
Cool.
So yeah, I have Christiana here. It's gonna be my computer audio. So the thing that I need to do is after I press record, I just need to set my computer to be using Descript as the audio device. There's an amazing Help Center article on that that will take you step by step. It's very easy. It's like 2 steps to do that. But once you press record, then you can change that. You can also decide if you want studio sound, transcription for each of these tracks. It's really great. Studio sound's awesome. We won't use it now, but we will use it in a little bit. And then there's some other settings right here for your transcription. All right. So I'm gonna press record. Hey, Christiana, can you hear me? Cool. Tell me about your shirt.
My shirt is a newly thrifted piece from a Portland thrift shop, and it's got cowboy cats on them and stars. Sort of a Western look, denim, lots of my favorite things.
I totally just did something wrong. I'm gonna skip this. I'm gonna skip this because I just messed up with my computer audio. I'm using the loopback to record, and it's messed up.
No
Well,
worries.
here's my recording. At least I can record. Turn computer off, and I can record straight into a project or a composition. It's going to record live, and after it catches up with itself, you'll start to see it transcribing and going through just like that. And we can start to edit right after we're done recording. It's amazing. But if you want to do any interviewing, check that out. I use this all the time if I need to make additions to a conversation that I had or an interview that I did after the fact, which is really helpful. So you can see that recording's dropped in just like that. And after it catches up with itself, you'll start to see it transcribing. Beautiful. Cool.
Cool.
That's in a nutshell of recording in Descript. All right. I digress. So I'm going to go back to episode 1 because we have so much more to do.
Awesome.
All right. So I'm going to take a pause here before we jump into the next section, which is going to be kind of combining script and timeline editing. You know, remove some filler words and word gaps and that kind of stuff. But I want to take a pause and make sure we can answer some questions if we have any.
Awesome. Cool. So there's a few questions left. Lots of awesome questions in the Ask a Section question. Marcelo's fingers are on fire, I think. But a few questions jumping back. Somebody asked, when I delete words from the transcript, does it cut my audio files?
No. Great question.
Okay.
Descript is completely non-destructive, meaning it's not going to destroy your audio files if you make an edit. It's just going to edit the reference to those original files. So as you're moving and you make any edits here, I'll remove this. You can see there's a little vertical line right there, little vertical dotted line to show you that there's been some media deleted. You can always highlight it, right click, and choose Restore Removed Media. And it'll bring back the edit that you made. The reason I really like the strikeout feature is just you can just see the edits that you've made and bring it back so easily if you want to. But good question.
Cool. There was a lot of questions around the ignore feature, Kevin, and people were sort of asking, when would you use the full delete then? What What exactly is
Hmm.
the difference there?
Yeah, this is dealer's choice, but I know a lot of teams only use ignore just so they can always search for what they maybe removed, or they might make copies of their composition. So it'd be like, interview one raw with no edits, and then they'll make a duplicate of that composition, and then that becomes the edit, something like that. But I would say if you want to both do ignoring and deleting of text, if you're going to delete it, it's something that you'll never ever use, and it's just gone for not gone forever, but just like out of sight, out of mind. And
Mhm.
using ignore for editorial decisions where you might want to bring something back or smooth it out, something like that. So that's kind of my rule of thumb.
Awesome.
Cool.
Love it. Time for a couple more, or what do you think?
Yeah, let's do one more, and then we'll jump into the script and timeline stuff.
Okay. Well, actually, this is a great question for you because you're an audio wizard. Folks are asking about what mic you're using and other tips for audio equipment.
Ooh, we should have a whole
We need to
fireside
do that.
chat about this. There's a lot of really great
Absolutely.
articles also that will walk through this in more detail. I worked on one. I used to work at an organization called PRX, and if you search my name, Kevin O'Connell, and then search PRX, that'll pop up. And there's a really awesome article I worked with my friend Alexandra on, and it's just walks through everything you might need to know when setting up a recording space at home and doing remote
Awesome.
interviews, that kind of stuff. But I use a Shure, at least in this setup, I have maybe too many microphones. This is a Shure 87C, which is really nice.
Cool.
And going through a PreSonus, really simple audio interface. But there's a million microphones out there. There's a million devices, interfaces. Many USB mics now are awesome. They sound and really great and are really reliable. So it's a combination of budget, your needs, and your space also, I think. But yeah,
Awesome.
sound off in the chat what you're using. I'd love to hear what everybody else is using now.
Yeah, people are starting to do that. Would love that. Cool.
Cool.
And also I see our wonderful managing editor, Ashley, is in the chat, and her team puts a ton of awesome articles and resources together on our blog. We have one for picking a mic, remote recording stuff. So definitely go check out the Descript blog. We've got some stuff for you there too.
Mm-hmm.
So cool.
The last thing I'll say about equipment is it doesn't really matter what you use. Just really know how to use it and be good with using it. So you know how to troubleshoot things, you know how to capture great audio with it. It could be your phone, it could be a tape recorder, it could be whatever it is. Know what you're doing and what you're trying to get out of it, because you can make great audio with any kind of recorder, any kind of mic. Yeah.
Totally. Cool.
Sweet. All right. Let's do it. We're going to jump back in. So we've done very light script editing. Before we move on, let's talk about some really powerful script tools. We're going to go up to this magic menu up here, or the sparkle menu, or the stars menu, whatever you call it. And there's some just nice Descript magic here. Click it. And this is where you can shorten word gaps, remove filler words, copy highlights. We won't get into that today, but we did a narrative podcasting session. We talked a lot about that, like pulling selects from an interview and writing around that. Highlighting and copying highlights is big there. The two that we're going to use today are just power tools here. Power tools. Shorten word gaps and remove filler words. So shortening word gaps, especially for this interview, there's a lot of pauses and just like dead air. You can find gaps that are a certain point of time. So I'm going to look for anything that is maybe 1 second or more. And it's going to show me all of those spaces. Maybe if I even do half a second. More. Anytime there's a pause that's more than a half a second long or whatever you choose, you can replace that pause with another period of time. So in this case, I'll just replace everything that's 0.5 seconds or more with 0.5 seconds, meaning the longest pause in this interview is going to be half a second. I'm going to apply to all. Get out of there. And now we'll see in my timeline, I have all these new edits, which are where Descript took that moment of silence and shortened it down. When we get into timeline editing, I'll show you how to collapse and expand those, but a really great tool just to like quicken up your interview a little bit and make it a little bit more concise. And your settings are your settings, whatever you like to use. Perhaps more importantly, removing filler words. This is just, still remember the first time I used Descript a few years ago, and this just blew my mind. So
Same.
I'm on the Pro plan here. So these are all the filler words that I can remove in Pro. If you're on a Creator plan, it's just a little bit more limited. But here is where you decide what filler words you'd like to remove. You can see the results that are over here. At the bottom, you'll decide if you want to delete those filler words, just straight up delete them, or ignore them. Definitely use ignore. I recommend, especially for this process. And then you click apply to all. And it will just remove all your filler words. Just like that.
Awesome. Yeah, someone in the chat said, but don't remove too many filler words. It takes away some of the real, authentic conversational feel, which we absolutely agree with, which is why that ignore feature is so awesome, because then you can just listen through and bring back the ones that make it sound like a real conversation.
Yeah. I often use this as like a first step so that when I'm listening through and making editorial decisions, I can, yes, bring them back where I'd like to.
Weather.
It's
Nice, I bet.
gorgeous.
You know, I want that gorgeous in there. I'll just double click it, unignore it.
Weather.
It's gorgeous.
Nice, I bet.
Gorgeous. We got a little.
Make it a little bit more conversational, natural. That was a repeated word from Andrew. That's why that was removed. Same thing here.
Rain, so it's more lush than usual.
Might want to bring it back.
So it's kind of more lush than usual.
I wish I was there.
How's it in Mississippi?
Just like that. There's some crosstalk. Might go into the sequence, remove that crosstalk. But having those uhs are really going to be huge because this is a section that is just, you know.
Lush than usual.
I wish I was there. Ugh.
How's it in Mississippi?
Might want those, might not want them. Who knows? But really helpful just to see the edits that you've made. And yeah, I usually bring back like 15% of my filler words to have it be more natural, depending on the interview. But there's also a really great way to search for text. So if there's a filler word or a word that's being used a lot that you want to remove, you can click the search button and search for text here and find a specific word. I'll show you where that shows up. Like that.
Awesome.
Cool. Okay. Time to introduce our timeline, I think.
Awesome.
Sound good?
Yeah, Kevin, what you just said about searching for words and like looking for specific things that you might say a lot. I wonder if it might be a good time to just mention the glossary really quick.
Good call. Good call, Christiana. So, yes. The transcription glossary is a glossary that you can add words to, keywords, proper nouns, all that kind of stuff. And it's going to allow Descript to keep an eye and an ear out for those in hopes to get them correct the next time you transcribe. So a great first step when you're setting up your account is going to the Descript D up there, going to File, and clicking Transcription Glossary. You can add a bunch of words here. You can add them also if you start to see them transcribed incorrectly over and over. Great to drop those in there. But it's an awesome, helpful tool for getting more accurate transcripts.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Cool.
All right. So a couple things to know is we've really designed Descript so that you rely a little bit less heavily on the timeline than you would in other tools. Meaning, yeah, we have that text transcription, right? So we can make a lot of edits there, and our editorial decisions are happening by editing the text. But sometimes it's just going to be a little bit easier to work in the timeline for certain edits. One of those being, that I think I use all the time, is using these word tabs here. So I'm going to hold, if you're on a trackpad on a laptop, you can pinch to zoom. Or if you're using a mouse, you can hold Command or Control, if you're on a Mac or PC, Command or Control and scroll in or out to zoom in and out on your timeline. You can also adjust the height here by clicking and dragging this stuff around. But what I really, really love to do is using these word tabs here to adjust my pacing and my timing. So let's just give it a listen. We'll show what it's like before and after.
All right.
Move up a little bit here. Cool.
Should start with how we met, I suppose.
Yeah. And where are you now, Andrew?
I'm in Ojai, California.
You're in Ojai. How's the weather?
There's that edit that we made. All right. So what I can do is click and drag these word tabs to adjust my pacing and my timing. So in this case, there's that big gap right here of silence.
How's the weather?
It's gorgeous.
I can just go boom and drag that over.
It's gorgeous.
Nice, I bet.
Gorgeous. We got a little rain, so it's
Same thing here.
Oh, I wish I was there.
Yeah.
Ugh.
How's it in Mississippi?
And I can just click and drag these if I want to as I'm editing. If I see empty space or, big breaths or background noise or anything like that. And now I'm moving these all to the left. So that's reducing the space, right? Shortening those gaps or maybe removing some audio. You can do the same thing to the right. Well, and what is very cool is I get this gap clip. And the gap clip is a moment of theoretical silence or like artificial silence. What happens is Descript AI will insert AI generated room tone. So it's like the sound of your space, or in this case, their space. And it's going to make it sound like there's a really nice natural pause there.
Oh, I wish I was there.
How's it in Mississippi?
It's a typical.
Just a little bit less on this one because there's like an increase in background noise.
Usual.
Oh, I wish I was there.
How's it in Mississippi?
And you can see that up here on our clips list on this gap clip. And I can click my settings and see the room tone right there. Toggle that on and off if I want it. So going to the left, reduces space. Going to the right, adds space. So
Awesome.
cool. A couple other things in the timeline that you'll just want to spend some time with and get used to are the timeline tools if you use them. Click this here, the select tool, which allows you to select clips. That's the standard one, it's just this arrow. But you can also use the range tool, similar to the sequence, to select spaces and delete them. Really nice and helpful. You can use the blade tool, which will give you edit points that you can adjust later on. The hand tool, which is like the dummy tool, I call it for me, so I don't mess anything up in my edit. I can just move around. Really nice. And then the slip tool, which is very cool, helps you move around and slip between an edit point. So it's kind of like peeling back the layers of that tape that you originally brought in,
Awesome.
independent from the edits around it.
Which of those tools do you feel like you use the most, Kevin? Just out of curiosity.
I switch between the range tool and the select tool kind of exclusively.
Got it.
Unless I'm reviewing someone's edit, then I'll use the hand tool so I don't mess anything up while I'm clicking around and doing that. But yeah, you'll use A and R to switch between select and range.
Right.
Just move stuff around.
Cool.
The other thing I use a lot in the timeline tool too, is if I hover over an edit point here, I can expand or collapse where it happens. Kind of similar to the slip tool, but it's really nice to be able to nudge edits that maybe are just like a little too quick, or you just want to add a little bit of space from an edit that you made before. Really nice to just be able to nudge that. And the way I'm getting there is just by hovering over an edit point on the left-hand side or the right-hand side.
Cool.
Yeah.
Love it. Kevin, really quick, I'm seeing a lot of questions in the chat that's like, what about when you do this with a video project? And so this event is definitely audio focused, but we do a ton of video stuff as well. So I will send some links in the chat where you can check out all of these features explained from more of a video perspective. But yeah, just wanted to flag that.
Very cool.
Awesome.
We had an awesome, a good question from a couple folks about where your files are, or like having a library. This is an audio only project, so we're trying to call out the things that are really important for audio. But even with audio, we have this media library up here where all of the files that you record or import, are stored. So here, it's also another shortcut to my sequences. But here's those files. We also have this stock library of video and images and GIFs and music, sound effects that you can add to your project. Before we go, we'll definitely add a music file when we do an intro real quick, but really awesome space right there for your files and files that come stock in Descript.
Awesome.
Okay. I want to add some studio sound to this because studio sound is ridiculously cool. If you're watching this live and you have headphones handy, throw on some headphones right now. If you're watching this recorded, pause, grab some headphones so you can really hear the impact of studio sound. So this is a sequence, right? It's those two tracks in the background. So what I can do is I'm going to go to audio effects. I'm going to click the plus button here. I'm going to go to audio repair, and I'm going to choose studio sound. This workflow, it's going to apply to both the files, and I can adjust them independently in the sequence later on, if and when I want to. It's a really quick way to just add studio sound to both files. You can see here it's applying to both Andrew and Jimbo. If I go back in the sequence, I can select individual tracks, so I can adjust the intensity of studio sound or even turn it off, which I'm going to show you in a sec. But while this processes, studio sound is just like a savior. It removes background noise, makes you sound closer to the microphone, nice and warm. It will remove like room reflections and reverb, that kind of stuff, and do a little bit, really light level of normalization. So kind of leveling your audio out for you. So I'm going to go into the sequence again. I'll double click in the timeline, holding Command or Control on my mouse. I'm zooming in or out to get that zoom. And by clicking one of the tracks, so clicking Andrew, any clip in Andrew's track, you can see it focuses Andrew. If I click down on Jimbo here, focuses Jimbo, and I can turn off studio sound by clicking this speaker for one of them, turns it off. Or I can adjust the intensity by clicking this setting button here and adjusting the slider. So first we're just going to do studio sound all the way on for both of them. I'm going to A/B test it so you can hear it first without it. I'm going to mute it for both tracks. Boom. All right.
Should start with how we met, I suppose. To start with how we met, I suppose.
Yeah. And where are you now, Andrew?
I'm in Ojai, California,
You're in Ojai. How's the
and
weather?
you're in. It's
So if you're on headphones, you can tell there's a lot of like just constant background noise. And this was recorded over Zoom. So it's just like that audio over the internet sound generally. For each track, I'm going to turn studio sound back on and let's give it a listen.
To start with how we met, I suppose.
Yeah. And where are you now, Andrew?
I'm in Ojai, California.
You're in Ojai. How's the
And
weather?
you're in. It's gorgeous.
Nice. I bet.
Gorgeous. We got a little rain, so it's kind of.
Sounds so good. So good.
Awesome.
That's each track at 100%. If I ever wanted to dial it back and kind of pepper it in, I could do that and kind of blend the studio sound with the original audio. That's really nice for already high quality recordings. But this is, what I would do for a lot of the audio that I'm working with.
It's awesome.
Cool. Sweet.
Yeah, it's a lifesaver feature for sure.
Yes. Okay. The last thing I wanted to do today was make an intro and show how that works. But
Awesome.
maybe we can do that in 3-4 minutes. Are there any questions that you wanna check out right now, Christiana?
Actually, a lot of people are asking about the intros and outros, so it's kind of perfect. I think most of the questions in the chat right now are about that. So, yeah. But we could just jump right into that. Yes, importing outros. Can you show us how to do that? People are loving studio sound for sure. Let's see. Here's a studio sound related question before we jump into that. Could you cut off just the breathing sounds in an automatic fashion? Like, is there a way to sort of like auto do some of that stuff? I think you're asking.
Not with Descript yet. We'll see yet. That timeline editing is a really great tool for removing breaths and replacing it with, maybe AI generated room tone, a gap clip, something like that. But with studio sound specifically, there's not a toggle for breath control or anything like that. Not yet.
Totally. Kevin, can you apply studio sound to a portion, but not the whole thing?
Unfortunately, not too. It's applied to the whole file. So studio sound will be applied to the whole file and then added any time that audio is used in a composition, it'll be adjusted that way.
Cool. Amazing. And then last one for studio sound stuff. Somebody asked, where did it go? Oh, I actually lost it. Oh, someone just asked, does it work for video as well?
Oh yeah. Any audio that you add in.
Beautiful. Yep. Cool. Oh, the question was, why wouldn't you use studio sound?
I mean, A/B test it if it sounds worse with studio sound, which is a possibility. There's tons of things you can do to audio to make it sound worse.
Right.
It's actually easier to make it sound worse with most audio processing. But if it sounds over-processed or it just sounds good as is, or you're going for like a specific effect. I have worked on a lot of projects where we'll capture audio from like an outdoor market or like public space, and adding studio sound removes some of that ambient environment that we really like. So in that case, we didn't use it. But recording like in my house with like my AC blasting next to me, it's like, I'm going to use it 100% of the time there. So just ask yourself, is it helping or is it hurting?
Right. Case dependent.
For sure.
Cool. Amazing. Okay. We can jump into intros, outros, I think.
Let's do it. So This is the quick and easy way to make an intro. I'm going to make a new composition here. Call this intro. Record my audio. You can call it Kevin intro in this case. Transcribing, great. and we'll record. All right, welcome back to my podcast. I don't have a name for that podcast. Well, welcome back to my podcast. Today we have a conversation between Andrew Bird and Jimbo Mathis. Hope you enjoy. So a really terrible intro, which you should maybe never use for your podcast, but it's going to work for this process. So we have this audio. We just recorded in, looking good. I might need to make an edit. But had a little false start. I'll remove that. Here's what we have. Welcome back to my podcast. Today we have a conversation between Andrew Bird and Jimbo Mathis. Hope you enjoy. Cool. You can see at the end I have some dead air. I'm going to hover over the end and just remove that dead air by clicking and dragging. I'm also going to apply some studio sound real quick. And looking pretty good. So this is just my intro, but maybe I have some music that I use as like my branded music. If that's the case, I'm going to pull it and drag it from my computer and drop that in. But for the sake of showing off our library, I'll do the same process with some stock music. Welcome back to my podcast. Cool. Studio sound sounding good. So I have my audio for my intro. I'm going to go to my media library right here. Find some music. Some hilarious names.
Yeah.
Well, we were meant to be.
There you go.
This is definitely it. Okay.
Yep.
So I'm going to, I can just click this and drop this in. Yeah, sorry. These are, the stock music is probably going to come out loud while it's being auditioned. So I apologize for your ears. Won't do that again. I'm going to just click and drag it where I want it to start. In this case, I want it to start at the beginning. But nice little pro tip here is I want the music to start before my voice comes in, like that classic. Music comes up, then comes down behind my voice. So what I'm going to do before I drop this in is I'm going to click that word tab in the beginning and give myself a little bit of space in my timeline. So say, I want this music to play for like 4 seconds before my voice comes in. So I'll drop that just like that. I'll click this clip here, just like I did earlier, and turn off the AI generated room tone because I don't need that in this case. Not an edit. Just like so. Looking good. So now it's just a blank empty space of audio, 4 seconds of silence. And now I'm going to take my track that I want, and I'm just going to drag and drop it right to the beginning. Just like that. Get out of this media library. And now you can see here I have an overlaid music track over my voice. I can edit this independently. I can extend it if I want to. I can add, there's already a nice little fade in, but I can adjust the volume of it right here if I want to, or also right here. Let's give it a listen. Welcome back to my podcast. Today we have, awesome. Sounds good. And then the last step for adding an intro is I'm going to add ducking. So I have my music here. I'm going to add an audio effect called ducking, which will reduce the volume of my music as soon as my voice comes in. So now it sounds like this. Welcome back to my podcast. Today we have a conversation between Andrew Bird and Jimbo Mathis. Hope you enjoy. All right, extend the music a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more. And then the last little step is I'm going to add a fade out. Classic. I'm going to click and drag this little tab right here at the end of the track in the timeline and add a nice gradual fade out. So now here's my whole intro. Welcome back to my podcast. Today we have a conversation between Andrew Bird, and Jimbo Mathis. Hope you enjoy.
Gorgeous.
Just like that.
Loved it.
From here, you have two options. You could just copy and paste this directly into that episode, that composition of the intro. Or if I was making a stock intro, maybe I don't, actually have their names in there, but I could export this as an audio file and then just drop it into every episode that I want, depending on what you're looking for. So in this case, I'm just going to take all this. I'm going to select all, Command or Control A, to copy. Go back to my interview, and I'll just paste it in.
Cool.
Little bug there where it didn't line it up, but here we are. Just moved it over.
Awesome. Beautiful. Okay, I know we're at time. Kevin, is there anything else you wanted to cover really quickly before we close up?
Really quickly, 30 seconds. To get your stuff out of Descript and out into the world, click Publish. You can publish it to one of our publishing partners here. So if you use Blueberry or Buzzsprout, just go straight to their platform. Or you can export as an audio file, adjust the settings, all that kind of stuff, and it'll export right to your computer.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Check out our help center for more details on publishing and exporting too.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. Kevin, thank you so much for that hour packed with amazing information and features. That was awesome. And thank you everybody for being here. Really appreciate it. I know that was a lot. And so if you want to watch the recording, you can absolutely do that. It is available on YouTube right now. Some people are watching on YouTube right now. So you can go check that out. We also have a playlist called Live Events with all of our live events. So I sent some links in the chat. For the video ones, we have social media clips, overdub, all kinds of events are in there. So go check them out. We also have a bunch upcoming throughout this month. We have one every week in February. So definitely go check those out on our Crowdcast page. I'll send that in the chat as well. Just a reminder, join our Discord community. We just hit 10,000 followers last week, members, which is super exciting. And lastly, if you're new here, score that month of Descript Pro and we'll send the link in the follow-up email as well. And we'd love your feedback on this. Feel free to reach out, email us, type in the chat what you would like to see. Thanks for sticking with us with the little bugs we hit and the little audio issues we had, but it was so much fun to be here with you all, and we hope to see you again at an event real soon. Right?
Yeah.
Anything else, Kevin?
Thanks for hosting.
We covered it.
Thank you all for being here.
Of course. Thanks, everybody. It was awesome to see you, and we'll see you again soon. All right.
Take care.
Bye.